Hello, everyone, and thanks for attending tonight and taking advantage of this opportunity that we have here for you in Aberdeen. Welcome to NSU and the Johnson Fine Arts Center. My name is Ashley Gower, and I'm the Associate AD for Communications here at NSU. We are very excited to welcome Dakotah back to campus this weekend, and we look forward to learning more about her journey from a Northern student to a U.S. Olympian tonight. Before we bring Dakotah up, I just want to draw everyone's attention to the screen over here and this QR code. So this is going to be your ability to ask her questions throughout the night. So feel free to scan that, and then we will mix in your questions as we are going here and as time allows. So now it is my honor to welcome to the stage Northern State Director of Athletics, Nate Davis, and Dakotah Popehn.
Thanks, Ashley, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. I would echo Ashley's comments of just appreciate you joining us tonight and taking advantage of this opportunity to visit with Dakotah and hear about her journey and her kind of path to where she is today. So we're excited to have you here. So first, thanks for coming and being here. We really appreciate it. And I guess, maybe just the opener here, you can kind of take this any direction you want, but talk to us a little bit about just kind of the journey to this point. Maybe an easy one here. When was the last time you were back on campus?
I haven't been to campus since, I think, 2017.
Okay.
So this is like a whiplash for me to see these new buildings, and it just looks very fresh, like a very nice facelift.
All right, sure. Very good, very good. So I was going to say, if it's been 2017, I wasn't here at that time, but my understanding is it's probably vastly different than, and I think you were kind of commenting on that when we got here, just like the different buildings and all the changes that have been made. So I think that's a credit to Northern and the progression that we've made there. So been quite a year for you. 2024 was a heck of a year, right? So I'll set this up a little bit and let you take it over, but a chance to qualify, run an Olympic qualifying time, get you into the trials. You got a place in the top 3 there, go to the Olympics, compete, have a great showing, and then soon after get engaged and then married, and then you capped off 2024 with an invitation to come back to Northern. So maybe
amazing.
Yeah, right.
Quite the celebration.
Yeah. So a lot of things happened there. Just talk us through kind of what a whirlwind that was.
Yeah, honestly, it was insane. The craziest part was going from not being an Olympian to being an Olympian. So on February 3rd, when I qualified, that morning I woke up kind of, a normal person. Nobody really knew me. I was very much an underdog going into the Olympic trials, and there's these articles that come out and people put their predictions online, and I read them all, and my name was never mentioned in any of them. And February 3rd, I woke up and I was like, today's the day I prove everybody wrong. And then when I made the team, it was just insane how quickly my life had changed. All of a sudden, everybody wanted the interviews, everybody wanted to hear the stories, and it became really overwhelming, to be honest. So I had a really great day in Paris, and I'm really grateful for that. But that transition of competing there didn't really feel as breakneck as the day I became an Olympian on February 3rd.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was a lot. When I was going into the Olympic trials, I was working full time as a paralegal, and after the Olympic trials, I was like, I can't do this all anymore. I had too many balls in the air, and I had to quit my job because it just got to be too crazy. I mean, we went on a vacation to the Dominican, and I had to spend a whole day in my hotel room doing interviews, podcasts, calls. Wow. Yeah, so it was crazy.
Yeah. So you mentioned reading the reviews and the predictions and all that, and was that motivation for you to say, you know what, I think I can maybe do a little better than some of these experts think I can?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've approached my entire running career as an underdog, being a walk-on at Northern, kind of had that underdog chip on my shoulder, and then, seeing all these people just not really acknowledge what I had been doing, and I like that. I like to be the underdog, yeah. And there's also no expectations, because if I had a bad day, nobody would have cared.
Yeah, that's good. Talk to us a little bit about that experience. Just you touched on a little bit there of when you found out you were going to be an Olympian and kind of how that took off. But how did your approach to running, your training, and just the preparation going to the Olympics, what did that look like?
Yeah, I'm really lucky to have a really great coach. His name is Chris Lundstrom, and so I don't have to do a lot of the thinking when it comes to preparation. I look at my log every day and do what he says. But we kept things conservative. Obviously, what got me, to become to the point where I could qualify for the Olympic trials and make an Olympic team, all was working. So we didn't change anything too much. In general, I run 130 miles a week when I'm at my peak, and I guess we just didn't change too much.
130 miles a week?
Yeah.
My number's not quite that high. I go back to, you talked about having your coach and having them kind of write the program for you. And so I think sometimes as athletes, that's an easy thing for us to just take for granted of, you show up to the gym or to the track or whatever it is, and then you don't quite appreciate the fact that like somebody else has already thought this out and has a plan of what the training looks like and whether we need to go hard today or take a lighter day or whatever. So, for maybe those here, myself included, that don't quite fully understand that, dig into that a little bit of just like how important that is to have a coach that knows the sport, knows what the needs are, and then also knows you as an individual and as an athlete and as a runner.
Yeah, definitely. My coach Chris he has a PhD in like exercise physiology. He also wins awards like every year for basically, I always say he's like the smartest coach. Yeah. He's very science driven. Yeah. So he's always doing research. He's always making sure he's trying to stay ahead of the curve, making sure that we're doing exactly what we need to. But him knowing me personally and like my attitude towards running really is the most important part, because I'm the kind of person who, if you told me to go run 100 miles tomorrow, I'm gonna do it. Okay. Like I do what I'm told. I'm very coachable, so he knows when to pull me back, and I think that's the most important part, because like you said, there are days that you want to go hard and you push really hard in the gym and on the track, and then there are days that you have to have off occasionally, which I'm not really prone to doing, but he forces me to take those days off or to dial it back when I need to.
I was going to ask you, so are you internally motivated? Like, is it like, I want to go run 100 miles today, or is it kind of like you need somebody to kind of help you get there?
No, I'm really internally motivated, which has changed over my career. I'd say when I was in college, I needed my teammates to get me out the door. if there wasn't practice, I had a hard time going. But now it's just like become a habit. I wake up and I run, and the days that I don't run, I feel crabby and like something's out of sorts for sure.
You feel like I've only got 127 miles in, I need 3 more?
Yeah, like my legs are itching for it.
Yeah. Coach Dingman, can you confirm that she was not always self-motivated? I mean, is that? Yeah, all right. How has the training changed a little bit? So go back as far as you want, but obviously from your time early on as a runner, collegiately, and then post-college, and now as a professional and at the Olympic level, surely the training has changed a little bit, the approach has changed a little bit. What's that transition look like?
Yeah, so I'm almost 30 now. So I, in high school, grew up in a world of no GPS watches. So I have almost no idea what I did in high school, because it was just by time. And I'm sure back then when I thought I ran a mile, I probably ran half a mile. So if I had to put a number on it, I was maybe running 20 miles a week in high school, maybe 30. Coming to Northern, I was coached under Kevin Bierke, who was a higher mileage type coach, especially when I was running the 5K and the 10K. So I was at the most, I think I got up to 60 miles a week with an 18-mile long run, and like those weeks I felt like I was dying. So to be at the point where I've been doubling it, obviously we've been doing that very slowly. It's been over the course of, 8 years now. Yeah.
So I want to get to the Olympic stuff, but before we leave this, like you touched on a little bit here, like you're not running a marathon every week. I mean, you've got to kind of tailor that and adjust that accordingly to manage the mileage load and all that kind of stuff. So is there a point in the training, like I guess at the peak levels, like what are you running on a daily basis or on a weekly basis?
Yeah, so when I'm peaking, I am basically waking up and running 10 to 12 miles in the morning, and then 6 to 8 in the afternoon. So I'm almost always running twice a day, and then with a long run I will do 27 to 28 miles on the weekend on a Sunday.
Okay.
Middle of the week, I might be doing, some longer runs also, like maybe 16 to 18 all at once.
Yeah, just a casual 28-miler on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a good excuse to spend the rest of the day on the couch.
I'm gonna file that one away. Yeah. Okay, let's dive into the Olympic stuff. Like, what a cool experience to be there as an Olympic athlete and getting the opportunity to go and represent the country. I guess there's a lot of different ways we can go with this. I'll just kind of like open it up to you. You talked a little bit about, when you found out that you made the Olympic team, but then take us from there. Like, what was that like of just the build up to it and working, to prepare for that, but then just the experiences of, you're going to have a lot of requests. You probably made a lot more friends leading up to the Olympics.
A lot of friends, yeah.
So just talk us through that whole experience.
Yeah, I mean, the lead up was, I think, maybe the most anxious I had been running, because when you're training, I like to think about it like walking towards a cliff in the dark and you can't see where that cliff is. If you get to that cliff and you step over it, you're injured or you're overtrained and you're going to have a bad race, or maybe you don't start the race. So you're trying to edge as close to that cliff as possible to your highest and your best fitness without stepping over. So the entire time I was so anxious. I was like, the last thing I want to do is get hurt, get overtrained. I want to have the best experience when I go there. So again, really relying on my very smart coach to just do whatever he said. It was really cool though, because I got to fly out to Eugene, Oregon to do team processing, which is where they basically get you perfectly fitted for your opening ceremony, your closing ceremony, and then they send you home with a huge Nike duffel bag full of your athletic gear that you get to wear when you're at the Olympics. And then they fly you out to Paris for the Olympics. It was super cool. I chose to upgrade myself to Delta One, so I got to lay down on the plane.
Nice.
That was pretty nice. I don't think I can travel any other way now. And you show up, you check into the Olympic Village, and they've got 3 more duffel bags for you, full of your Ralph Lauren gear, your skims, your opening and closing ceremonies that are now fitted for you. It was super amazing, just to feel that special. I'm just a small town girl. I don't need all this stuff, and it just seems so fancy. And it was super amazing for sure. But yeah, I had a lot of requests, and eventually had to learn how to say no. I'm a Minnesota girl. I'm a Minnesota nice people pleaser, so had to learn how to definitely limit the time with press for sure.
So we were kind of joking about this earlier. You get all this Nike stuff. You get bags and bags of that. And if you didn't know, Dakotah in her professional running is sponsored by Puma. So I don't know all the specs of those contracts, but basically it says you can wear Puma gear and that's it. So you probably had a lot of good Christmas gifts come out of those Nike. What do you do with all that stuff?
It is all still sitting in a bag. I do have some things I want to give to my cousins, but I'm not going to be sponsored by Puma for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And someday I'd like to start a family, and I'd love to be able to give that stuff to my kids or have it forever. I did give my closing ceremony jacket to my dad because he wanted one so bad. He almost bought it at the team store, but it was I can't remember how much it was, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 for this jacket. So I was like, Dad, you can just have mine.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Good deal. Yeah, that's great foresight on your part to think ahead there and say, let me save this.
I worked really hard for that gear.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Good. What were some of the coolest experiences that you had there? Any other athletes, either U.S. athletes or others from around the world? Any of those stand out that you got to meet?
Yeah, 2 moments that were really cool is, so the United States has what we call the High Performance Training Center, which is outside of the Olympic Village. They have it for a few reasons. One, because they can hire an American chef who cooks American food so that these American athletes can eat things that aren't going to upset their stomach, and the Olympic Village food is questionable at best. And except for the chocolate muffins. The chocolate muffins are very good.
I've heard that.
That was the thing.
Okay.
But also because then we can have access to our own track and facilities. And I was out there getting PT work done or something, and I was going to leave to catch the bus to come back to the village, and somebody opens the door for me, and I'm looking at their belly button. So I crane my neck up, and it's Anthony Davis, who's a big NBA player. I didn't know who it was, and I just knew it was an NBA player, and then I described the eyebrow to Montana, and he knew. And so I was starstruck and just in awe of these people. And then for opening ceremonies, LeBron was our flag bearer, so the entire NBA team, or the basketball team was there, and he walked by me. And then shortly after, Anthony Edwards, a Timberwolves player, walked by me, and I'm a big, big fan of ants.
Okay.
So I worked up every courage in my body and asked him for a photo, and he was super cool and kind, and I was like, you know what, I don't even care if I win a medal at this point. Like, this is already my highlight, that I have a selfie with Anthony Edwards.
Very cool. I think I saw that photo. That's pretty cool. I heard you mentioned LeBron, so maybe you guys are on a first name basis. I think I heard him refer to you as just Dakotah one time. Like,
Yeah.
Just got to hang out with her on the opening ceremony.
Yeah.
Did I hear maybe too, like that after, like in your conversation with Anthony Edwards, that you guys maybe figured out that you don't live too far away from each other, or maybe I dreamed that up.
You might have dreamed that up. No,
Bad
we did.
Sources.
I was so shocked, shook.
All right. How was? Did you spend? You talked about Olympic Village a little bit. Did you stay there, or did you stay offsite, or what would that look like?
We stayed. Montana and I stayed offsite. I stayed one night at the Olympic Village, and
Just to say you did.
Just to say I did.
Yeah.
It gave me some dirty vibes, some old-time college vibes, it was awesome. Like, it was a beautiful facility. They did a great job. I am just very type A when it comes to my race routine, so I just wanted to have something where I could be in my own routine, cook my own food, go to bed when I wanted, because you do have a roommate when you actually have like 6 roommates at the Olympics, so I just wanted to kind of have my own
have your own
space.
space.
But I wanted to be able to come and go, so we
Yeah.
were quite close to the
Nice,
Olympic Village.
nice. Ashley, we got any questions right now? All right, let's get a couple of those.
All right, so the first one is, what was your favorite workout you did for the Olympic Marathon?
Oh, that's a good question. My favorite workout is always, I have usually this fartlek, which I do about 75 minutes of, where I do 3 minutes at my LT pace, so that's usually maybe around 5:15 pace, and then 2 minutes a little slower than marathon pace. So it ends up being 75 minutes of running at marathon pace, and I just love to grind. I love like the long runs. As soon as my coach puts like 12 by 400 on my calendar, I cry and want to go hide under my bed.
All right, let's throw a couple more out there because we actually have quite a few. Besides Paris, where has been your favorite international race?
So actually the only other international race I've done, it was in Cali, Colombia. So that automatically takes second place, I suppose, but I did actually really enjoy it.
Okay, there was one that I saw and now I'm missing it. So I'm going to try to paraphrase, sorry to the person who asked this, but on a treadmill run, what's your favorite entertainment source?
Oh, it totally depends. Right now, I am very into Shrinking on Apple TV. It's a series. It's super good. So whatever TV show will keep my attention for an hour. So.
I can confirm Shrinking is a good show.
It is very good.
I don't watch it on the treadmill, but it
You
is
should
good.
try it. It elevates the experience.
Okay, last one for me and then we can throw it back up there. What was your favorite race to run in college?
Oh, that's a good question. I loved when we got to go out to California because I love the Midwest, but we did not get great weather at like Drake or wherever, Mankato. It just didn't matter where we were. I felt like the weather was bad. So when we got the special treat of going out to California for Mount Sac, that was my favorite.
Very good. Very good. All right, we may come back later, so if you get some more. If you have questions, you didn't get asked them, scan the QR code here and we'll get them in there. I got a couple more things on the Olympics before we kind of move on there. I could probably ask questions for a couple hours on that, but for everyone's sake, we won't do that. So your race was towards the end. Wasn't it the last day of the games? Was it hard to stay focused on your training and on the race and kind of keeping that physical and mental prep with all this other stuff going on around you?
So that's why we stayed outside of the village, because I think had I been in the village and you're seeing other athletes, finish competing and having a good time and, partying a little bit, that would have been really hard for me to stay focused. It was just really difficult. So I was there for opening ceremony. So I was there for a whole 3 weeks before my race. And the first week and a half wasn't too bad because I'm in Paris and I'm going to get coffee and croissants and it's amazing. And then all of a sudden track started and it was the first time I was watching events that were adjacent to mine, and that's where like when Grant Fisher won a bronze medal, I was like, oh my gosh, this is very real now, and I started to get really nervous. And it was difficult to watch other athletes be done competing when I still had to wait. Like the morning of the Olympic, my race, we Ubered to the village at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm walking in with my bag, and I'm nervous, and I feel like I'm gonna throw up, and here's all these girls coming in their skirts and their heels, and they're tumbling all over the place. They're coming back from like the bars at 3 o'clock, and I'm like, who's gonna feel worse in like 4 hours, me or you? So it was just really hard to like see these people have a good time when I'm gonna have a good time in my own way, but I wanted to like let loose at that point.
Well, sure, yeah. You've been there, and like you said, they've competed and can now kind of
breathe,
enjoy the moment, exhale a little bit, and you've had to stay kind of laser focused the whole time. And then as soon as your race is over,
I get to breathe.
But then like the whole thing,
everything is done.
Everything's
So then
done.
I don't get to enjoy Paris the same way they got to, which is okay.
Yeah. Did you have, when you went to some of these other events, was there kind of a moment or an event or something, anything that like stuck out as like kind of an iconic moment, maybe outside of obviously your own race, but just something that you attended?
Yeah, we went and saw just soccer. We watched one game of soccer and a night of track, but I mean, we watched everything on TV because it's real time. And I think the most defining moment was Grant Fisher winning bronze, and I think it was a 10K that he won first, and me being like, oh, there's no reason to limit what I dream right now because it's the Olympics and anything can happen. He wasn't supposed to win a medal, and he did, so it's like, okay, well, I shouldn't think about the fact that I'm ranked 60th in this field. I can just think about, how can I upset people who have no idea who I am.
Yeah. How did you, so you get to race day and all that and go through it. How did you feel about your race overall, like in terms of all the prep you did? Like you said a minute ago, you worked really hard for that bag of gear, but you worked really hard for a lot of other things too. How would you kind of rate your performance and evaluate yourself? And obviously the experience overall is phenomenal, but then we're all competitive, right? So I'm sure you go back and kind of evaluate that a little bit.
Yeah, so I was 12th overall, and I really would have loved to be 10th. But that being said, if I had been 10th, I would have wanted to be 5th. And if I was 5th, I would have wanted to be 3rd. And 3rd, I would have wanted to win. And if I won, I would have wanted to win by a bigger margin.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any part of me that will ever settle and be like 100% okay with how I performed. But I did outperform my rank, and I beat the reigning Olympic champion. And 12th place is pretty awesome.
I was impressed with it.
I think most
people here probably were too.
And I'm stoked with it for sure.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think I know all, like, I'm gonna say us, like just not only as people in this room, Northern Aberdeen, but the whole country. Like it was such a cool experience to watch and have that connection to you as with your time at Northern, but just to see, it's the Olympics, and I think we all can identify with this sentiment that you get to watch something that maybe you don't watch very often, but then you're just compelled to be so invested in it because the person is wearing a USA jersey. And so I think it was really cool to kind of see you get to do that. And then there's kind of that iconic shot of you. I think you were leading the race, right, going by the Palace of Versailles. So that was. Do you have that photo? I would hope you have that maybe somewhere.
Yeah, they do give that to you, which is super cool. And yeah, that was maybe like my most iconic race moment for sure, because I had no idea even how. I still can't like conceptualize how that happened, because I was with the group and then all of a sudden I just wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, what a cool place for me to take the lead. And I think I heard Aberdeen, South Dakota cheer at that moment.
Very good. Very good. All right, I want to hit one other thing here. You're going to have to help me a little bit with this one. So you met a young fan over there, right? During the race, after the race, I think his name was Jackson. Mm-hmm. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with how the race went, it started in downtown Paris, and then it went out to Versailles, so you have this really long climb, and then you turn by Versailles, and you have the biggest hill that's ever been put in a marathon, basically. and that's around 30K is when you climb it. 35K is to get to 35K is a long downhill, and you're almost at the end of the race. It's 42K altogether. And I am in the hurt locker, like no other. I had missed a bottle, and there wasn't like a lot of women ahead of me to work on. I was just kind of in no man's land, and I was kind of just like bumming hard, that happens in a marathon all the time. And all of a sudden, this little boy is yelling my name. He's saying, "Go Dakotah, go Dakotah." And I look over and I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody knows who I am. Like, that's very unique, especially in a different country. Yeah. And then I run a little farther and he's still cheering for me. So I look over again and he's keeping up with me. And he's like, I think he's 10. And I swear this lasted in my head, it was like 10 minutes in my head, but it was realistically like 3. But he kept up. I was going like 5:30 pace. This little kid was hauling, so I got to the end. It just made my day. It was like, it got my head out of the gutter, and I just like started being like, you know what, I'm in the Olympics, I still have work to do, and it just got me right back in it, and it like put a smile on my face. So when I finished, I talked to Sarah Lorge Butler, who works for Runner's World, and I was like, if there's somebody who can help me find this little boy, I'm gonna ask Sarah. And so she wrote up an article saying, find this little boy, basically. And they saw the article, obviously, and the dad DM'd me. He had videos of Jackson following me, so I knew for sure it was him. And he happens to live in New York. I ran New York this fall, and on the Wednesday before the New York City Marathon, Jackson skipped his first period class of school to go on a run with me, which happened to have been his gym class. So okay. I think his gym teacher was okay with that.
That probably meets the criteria for gym class.
Totally, yeah. So we've stayed in touch. He's a great little runner. I think someday we'll watch him in the Olympics in 20 years.
Very cool. Yeah, I didn't know, I knew pieces of that. So to hear the whole thing that's incredible. I think as you were telling it, I just kept thinking about the power of sport and what attracts us all to that. And my wife and I talk about that pretty regularly, of like, how do you not love sports? I mean, because not only for some of the reasons that a lot of us love it, but when you have these powerful connections, and like you talked about, you're in a moment where, I don't know if I even want to finish this thing, right? But then you have this source of energy over here saying, you can do it, keep going, and to kind of carry that forward and get you through, and then to be able to connect with them afterwards. Like, cool story for us to hear, probably a really cool moment for you, but what do you think the story he's telling back at,
I know, I'm like, this kid's the coolest middle schooler for sure. And I mean, I think running's so unique where it's very isolating, and it's you out there, you're the only one doing it, and so for it to be connected to a fan, I think it really opened my eyes to how important having fans out there is. I mean, realistically, 26.2 miles would be pretty brutal all alone with no fans, and the difference that the cheers make is really important.
Yeah. So throughout the course there, obviously long course, a lot of miles to cover. Are there, we see what we see on the coverage. Like, was there fans kind of all along the way, or were they kind of in pockets at different spots?
No, it was, I think, probably the most well-attended marathon I had ever run, and I've done New York and Boston, which I think are normally known to be some of the loudest, but there was not a quiet part of the course. The only quiet parts like when you went under underpasses, and at those moments I was like, thank goodness, like everybody, it's so loud, you can't even hear yourself think sometimes. So it was really, they really came out for that marathon.
That's really cool. And like you said a second ago, like to be an athlete who's used to kind of running alone and having time to think and lots of silence, for the biggest race of your life, what a drastic change in setting and scenery. Yeah. So talk a little bit about, you mentioned New York and Boston. Talk to us a little bit about the different races and marathons that you run in the United States or around the world, and some of the highlights of some of those, and if you have like a favorite one that you like to do.
Yeah, my favorite is Grandma's Marathon in Duluth, Minnesota. Okay. I think that's the best marathon on the planet, if I'm being honest. I do go to like the Bostons and the New York. Those are a lot harder because they're really challenging courses, and then they're not really, we race them championship style, so everybody goes really slow for a while, and like some people's really slow is still kind of my very fast. So, and then it just turns into a sprint with like 6 miles to go. So those are really challenging races. I prefer more of like a Chicago where it's flat and everybody just runs like their goal pace from the beginning rather than that championship style.
Talk about the difference in those two, like for maybe the novice folks in the room, championship style versus
like a PR style. So if it's like a Chicago or even a Grandma's, you can run the same pace from the beginning to the end, or even get faster as you go. But you start fast. Your goal is to run fast at those marathons, those flat marathons. But a Chicago or a Boston or New York, you're there to win. It's all for the glory. Nobody cares what time you run because they're such hilly marathons. So really, it's running at like a more leisurely pace for some, not always for me. But and then it just turns into a sprint with like 3 miles to go, basically, which it's really hard to sprint after you run 23 miles. But that's very similar to how like if there are any track runners in here, how like a 10K would be run at NCAAs.
Yeah. Are there any of those courses or any of those races that you talked about some being really hilly? Are there any that you're just like, man, I just really hate this race, but I know I need to race it. I know I need to run it because it's good. Like maybe it's required with your, as your, with contracts or whatever, or it's just, hey, I need to be in this race because it's a good one for me to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I love Boston. I love the people who put it on. I love the organization, but that course is so mean. But it always brings the best athletes. So you want to compete against the best, so you have to go to Boston, but it's not my favorite course for sure.
Yeah. Ashley, we got any more good questions down there?
I think so. So here's one. What is your advice to the distance crew at NSU to maximize their potential?
Ooh, I think, so whatever your coach is giving you for running, like when you show up to practice and you have to run 12 by 400 or whatever workout, every other athlete is doing that in your conference, in the country. There's not really like a secret sauce in running. You're all doing the same thing. So the most important thing that you can do to get ahead of whoever the competitor athlete, like I remember I had a girl from like Winona who would just always beat me at the end, and it just drove me insane. So I always think of her. If you want to get ahead of her, that person that's always beating you but really shouldn't, you got to do the things outside of practice: drinking water, getting sleep, getting not just like your normal 8 to 9 hours, but making sure you're going to bed at 9 o'clock every night, waking up at 6, keeping that schedule super strict, and like fueling correctly. And it's okay to like have your days where you're having some, where you're cheat days or whatever. We all do. I do all the time. Yeah. But making sure the majority of your diet is like really strong, good food, and just like treating your body right in every way possible, I guess.
Yeah.
I think you get better outside of practice, not in practice.
Yeah. You talked. I'm going to come back to you here, but you talked about a cheat day. What's like a good cheat day look like for you?
Pizza, for sure. That's usually my cheat day. Or chicken wings lately has been my obsession. So.
Speaking my language.
Yeah.
What else we got, Ashley?
What would you say is the hardest part of being a professional runner?
That's a great question, because I feel like I love my job so much, but I'd say the hardest part is dealing with expectations. I went to New York this year and obviously had a little bit more of a spotlight than normal after coming off an Olympics, and I think it's just really hard to look at your social media and see what people expect of you, and then when that doesn't always align, trying to deal with that mentally. I think there's a really hard mental side to that.
Okay, non-running related question. What was one of your most memorable moments at Northern State University?
I think my most memorable, which didn't happen on campus or even in Aberdeen, but it was when I was here, is my freshman year for cross-country camp. We went to Yellowstone, and I was brand new freshman. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anybody, and we go out to Yellowstone, and there's moose everywhere and buffalo, and I'm running doubly the amount of mileage than I ever had, and I only got to shower once. And we're camping, and I was like, I'm not sure I'm like cut out for this.
That wasn't in the manual for being a college athlete, was dodging moose and camping?
No, and not showering. Yeah. We all stink.
Yeah. Okay. Got any more good ones?
I think so.
Okay.
So how did your hockey experience affect or help your running career?
I always say that to be a goalie, you have to be a little crazy, and to be a marathoner, you also have to be a little crazy. You have to be definitely okay with pain in both, for sure.
One more.
You got another one? Okay.
One more. Do you listen to music when you're running? And if so, what are your choices?
I listen to music as a treat. So like if I've been really good all week and I feel like I deserve like a little break from like the mental slog of running, I'll let myself listen to music, but because I can't obviously listen to music in a race, I don't want to rely on it. But if I am listening to music, I'm clearly listening to Taylor Swift, my queen.
I could agree with that, yeah. We play some Taylor Swift at our house occasionally. When you said you were as a treat, I thought you were gonna say you listen to music when you eat chicken wings. That's what I thought. We'll come back, Ashley, if you get some more. So there was a question there about about Northern, and I kind of had some things I wanted to ask you about that. So let's go back a little ways into like maybe early on and even before Northern as a young athlete. At what point in time did you maybe realize like, yeah, I think I want to kind of, I like running, I'm good at it, I want to maybe pursue this opportunity into a collegiate level? What was kind of that discerning moment for you?
I don't know if I had like a specific moment where I was like, oh, I just love running more. Running's sneaky. Like, you think you don't like it, but then you don't get to do it. You get injured or something, and you're like, dang, maybe I do like to run.
Okay.
And, you know, like I wouldn't have said I loved to run in high school. I just thought like I just was okay at it, and I liked it more. I eventually liked it more than hockey because I liked the aspect of it being an individual sport where I worked hard at running, I got better at running. I worked hard as a hockey player, as a goalie, and it didn't really have like a direct effect. Like I could stop pucks, but I couldn't score goals. So like it didn't necessarily change outcomes. So it started to sneak up on me maybe my junior year, and that's when sometime in my junior year I reached out to the college coach here because I was like, you know, maybe he'll let me walk on, and he was super generous to let me walk on here.
Yeah. So keep the timeline going here. So you get to Northern, just maybe talk a little bit about, you know, your experience at Northern and how you came in as a walk-on and then just developed and continued to grow and get better and, you know, gain all the things that you need to as an athlete to just kind of continue to mature in that process. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I've got the worst memory, and I don't know if this is still a thing, but as a student athlete, it wasn't like a class. I didn't get credit for it, I don't think, but I had to do it at night. Like I had to go sit with other athletes and learn how to be like a good student athlete. Like, you know, go talk to your professor. Is that still a thing?
Like study hall?
Kind of like a study hall, yeah, but it was like only for athletes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like a freshman seminar.
There you go.
And in that freshman, the only one that I remember is they talked about a wrestler who was a walk-on, and he left as a full scholarship, and I should know his name because it was such a aha moment for me. Mm-hmm. But they told this story of how he worked really hard, became a full scholarship after being a walk-on, and maybe even wrestled after Northern. Or maybe he was an NCAA champ or something, and I just remember being like, oh, somebody else has done it, I guess I'll do it too. And like just being like, oh, if somebody's paved the way for me. That freshman year, didn't see a lot of success, but you know, like there's a learning curve of being a student athlete and the demands of college. But somewhere my sophomore year, I had a teammate, her maiden name is Sasha Hoveen, it's now Gallagher. If you're a track athlete, you know that her school records line that thing up. She made NCAAs in cross country, and we drove to, I don't remember now, Kentucky to go watch her, and she became an All-American, and she lifted the All-American trophy up over her head. And I remember looking and being like, her and I have the exact same high school PRs, so if she can be up there doing that, I can be up there doing that. And from that day forward, I was basically like, Sasha, whatever you do, I'm gonna do. If she's staying after practice to do core, I'm staying after to do core. If she runs her workout too fast, I'm running mine too fast. Like I just became attached at the hip. Yeah. And that's really when I felt like I started to develop, was just by looking around and being like, how can I work harder? Like where are the examples outside of me to work harder? And then obviously, yeah, the rest is history. I kind of just slowly got better every single year. Then when I was graduating, my coach, Birky, was like, hey, I think you can make the Olympic trials in the marathon. And I was like, whoa, what does that even mean? And the next day went into his office with a pen and paper and said, how do I do that? I wanna give that a go. Like, I felt like in my heart, as soon as he said that, I was like, that is what my calling is. And he was just saying I could qualify for the Olympic trials. The race that you go to make the Olympic team, he was not, he believed in me, but I don't think he was saying, hey, I think someday you'll be an Olympian or anything. Yeah. So it's fun to reminisce on that, and I think I've surprised him.
Yeah, I didn't know that part of the story. As you're just telling that, and just talking about, I just looked to somebody ahead of me and what are they doing, and how do I do that, and how do I achieve at that level? And you know, I just, as you kept telling the story there, I kept thinking like, boy, you just overachieved on every one of those things. Like the wrestler had a scholarship. Well, you kind of outdid him too, and then somebody was an All-American, you outdid that, and like, I guess it'd be interesting to hear kind of their perspective of like, you know, they were a scholarship and they were an All-American, and oh, by the way, she outdid all of you and became an Olympian. So kind of a cool path there. But so I want to dig in a little bit more on the story. If you go in to the coach's office the day after and say, hey, you told me this, how do I do this? Like, is that kind of when maybe the dream or the process started to kind of to chase what you're doing right now?
Totally. He had a friend who had ran for Minnesota Distance Elite, so he had a connection there. He, I believe, emailed and called both the coach and the owner, or like the person who founded our team, and basically said like, I've got a girl for you. Like she's got the potential. And I then sent emails to them both too, just saying like, because I did get better at Northern, but I wasn't like amazing still. Like I wasn't setting NCAA records. I wasn't somebody that people would say, hey, this has got the potential to be a really great marathoner and even an Olympian someday. Yeah. So they really had to take a chance on me. So we kind of had to beg them. And after, you know, a lot of buzzing in their ear, finally the coach, Chris Lundstrom, who's still my coach today, said, yeah, we can take you on, but we can't accept you onto the team. You can be, again, like a walk-on. Mm-hmm. I was called a training partner at the time, where I didn't get any benefits of being on the team. I didn't get a stipend or gym access. Basically, I could show up to practice and just work hard, and eventually that paid off, obviously.
So when they said you can kind of be on the team but not really stay over there, you probably thought like, yeah, I've been down this road before. Like you're not telling me anything new. Like I'm going to show you. And
yeah, I just got this weird, I always call it like stupid belief in myself. Like I shouldn't have believed that I could become a professional runner even. I shouldn't have believed I could have become a marathon or an Olympian, but I just do. I just have like, if I want to do something, who's to stop me? Yeah. I have 100% I'm in the driver's seat 100% when it comes to running. I make every decision. I run the race. It's not a team sport. Everything about it is on me. So why could anybody tell me no, I guess?
What's next? And if there's no, kind of no ceiling there, what are some of the goals maybe for this year or beyond?
Yeah, this year is a world championship year in Tokyo. So if I'm selected to that team, it's a little bit of a different selection than the Olympic trials, but I would like to definitely crack top 10 and maybe be in the top 5. That would be like my A goal. But I'm looking to 28 and 32 and how I can get on the podium in one of those years. Okay.
Well, we're going to hold you to that. Everybody here heard it. 2028 on the podium. So, was there a moment in your time at Northern, I guess, that maybe take like a more maybe a fun approach here? Is there a time, a race, a practice, maybe sometime in Jury Hall? Like, is there one or two memories that kind of stand out for you? Of like when you think about your time at Northern in college, is there that one memory that stands out above all the rest?
Oh man, as being an athlete,
or just a student, yeah, either one. I know
that's so broad.
It's a big time frame there.
I think I've been thinking about this a lot lately. just because I was coming here. There was this time in the team room, like, I don't know if track still does this, but after, like on Wednesdays or something, we'd meet and go over like whatever meet just happened, like go through results, talk about who did great, maybe won prizes, and then talk about the meet that's coming up. And in that meeting, I had set like a new PR, and Bierke, when I would PR in the 10K, I wouldn't PR by like 2 or 3 seconds. I'd always PR by like 45 seconds or a minute, like big gap, like big jumps. And Bierke began calling it my maiden name, pulling a Bullen. And I just think like that was such a fun moment where he like, I guess like I made that an icon of like, that was the thing that Dakotah did. Dakotah broke her PR by minutes, never by like a few seconds.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think this question kind of came up earlier, maybe from the audience, but it was kind of geared around what maybe advice you would give to somebody. I guess take that question a little bit different. Like, do you get a chance to talk to younger athletes, whether they're, really like even before high school, in high school, even maybe some teammates that are younger that are coming up? Like, do you get those opportunities often? And if you do, what's kind of the message that you share with them?
I have a ton of young teammates right now. We just signed a bunch of just out of college athletes. I don't get to talk to high schoolers as much as I guess I would like to, but the advice that I would love to share with everybody is I kind of coined, I did not coin this at all, but it's the thing that I think about is bet on yourself. Not somebody around you, the people around you might not be the first person to believe in your dreams. I tell this story all the time, but when I started trying to make an attempt to run professionally, my dad was he to my face was always yeah, you can do it, can't wait till Nike calls you up and says they want you. He really believed in me to my face. Yeah. But now that we've talked about it later, he's like, heck no, I didn't think that you'd make it this far. He supported me, but I had to be the first person to believe in me.
Yeah. And
you just have to wake up and bet on yourself every single day, because there are going to be a lot of noise around you that's saying you can't go from a walk-on to being a full ride scholarship. You can't go from being a walk-on to being a All-American. You can't go from being a Division II All-American to being a professional runner. There's all these people who are going to say you can't do these things, and you have to be the first person to say that you can.
Yeah, that's great advice. Was there ever a point in time, and maybe there was multiple points, but was there ever a real point in time where you thought, maybe they're right, maybe I can't do this, maybe I just need to, what kind of motivated you to push through that?
So that's, I guess, when you fall on, hopefully you've got that support system around you who believes in you. The first marathon I ran, as what would be my debut as a professional marathoner, was CIM. And I dropped out at 18. I was throwing up, I was cramping, I was just having myself not a great day. And I cried. I was so mad at Kevin Bierke because I was I can't do this. I can't be a professional runner. And I called my mom and I was I'm so embarrassed that I quit, that I couldn't do it. I was in the middle of an airport just being the most dramatic person. And she said, Dakotah Marie, you are going to get on another starting line. I was I don't want to, I don't want to do this again. She's you're going to, and you're going to do it, and you're going to do it right. And so I think when those thoughts start to creep in, you have to have people around you who are going to set you straight. And then I like to keep a journal, my running log. And so when things are hard, when my workouts are going bad or I have a bad race, I go back to the workouts that were good. And look at what I said there. I'm talking myself up like crazy. I'm amazing. I'm the fastest person ever. I got to go back and get in that mindset.
That's great. That's great. And when you're talking to mom, it has to just resonate of the truth that's been true for all of time. Moms just know best. They just have
Moms are always right.
That's right. That's right. So, Ashley, we got any others that you want to chime in with?
How do you manage the mental side of racing? What was your thought process, and what did you say to yourself during that Olympic marathon race?
So the marathon's a little unique, where you try to almost go comatose for 20-some miles. So you're doing whatever you can to not be in your head, which actually isn't a bad race tactic for distance races in general. If you're doing a 5K or 10K, you kind of don't want to be there for some of that. It's a long time to be in pain. So for me, I'm just doing what I can to just focus on myself, like think about my breathing, my footstep, just basically taking my mind off of the pain or discomfort that I'm in. But when it starts to get hard and you have to start thinking about the pain, I am either going to my mantra, which is, I am strong, I am fast, my speed will last, because it's like rhythmic. I kind of like how I can breathe with it. Or I'm starting to try to get into like that aggressive racing mindset of like, nobody on this course wants it more than I do. So I'm trying to be really, really aggressive in my thoughts once the race is coming to an end or like I'm in a lot of pain.
What would you say is your favorite pre-race meal?
Okay, pasta makes you run faster, so I'm like a spaghetti, I'm not too picky, some sort of pasta the night before. Morning of, I'm a bagel and cream cheese and some yogurt.
When you were a goalie,
It was.
what was the most amount of, they said shots, but what was your biggest save total in one game?
So we used to play Benil St. Margaret, who like recruited athletes, and we had days that were like 78. I had days where that was like 70, 80 shots and like 10 goals. They were like to the point where it's like mercy rule, just let this team off the ice.
I went to high school there, so you're right. They're very good at hockey, so yes.
Okay.
What do you remember what your high school PRs were?
I do. My mile was 5:35, and my 2 mile was 11:57, which I just want to take a moment to say my PR in the marathon is now, I think, 5:29 a mile, so I run my high school PR over and over and over again.
Yeah, so what if you're just running 1 mile today? So it's 5:25 in high school?
5:35.
5:35. What if you go out and just run a mile today, which I know is probably not that big of a deal for you because you run.
No, it would hurt. A mile would hurt. I could probably do like a 4:45 right now.
But now, what's your marathon mile time is what?
Like 5:29. So I've gotten a little better since high school.
Yeah, I'd say so. My math would calculate to say yes, that's fast.
Let me see here. There's a lot of questions that are double ups. What does a day during peak training look like for you?
Yeah, so I am super lucky to be full-on professional, so I sleep in the best I can, usually till like 6:30 or 7. I wake up and I eat, drink some coffee, get ready to run. So sometimes I think getting ready to run takes longer than the actual act of going for a run. So I'm doing my band work, my prehab, rehab, and I go and run maybe 10 to 12 miles, come back and kind of just eat, relax, do some core, shower if I'm feeling extra motivated. And then I'll try to do like any sort of recovery that I can, whether that's, just taking a nap, sitting on the couch. I do coach occasionally on the side, so just doing anything to stay off my feet for the most part. And then going out for a double around 3 o'clock, so that could be anywhere from 6 to 8 miles, and then I come home, I eat, and I shower. So I'm doing a lot of eating and running and showering.
So with that one, like on that type of day, what's the amount of hours that you're committing to all the training, like everything that's involved in what would be considered training?
I personally believe in like a sport like running, almost every minute of your day is devoted to running, no matter what your decision is. Like if I'm deciding to clean my kitchen versus sit on the couch, like that's a decision I'm making to be more tired for my second run than I would be, so everything's kind of a choice to be made towards running. Obviously you have to do things like clean. I'm not making the big bucks where I can hire a cleaner yet. But I would say like in total, like getting my body ready and running, it's probably 4 hours a day that I'm devoting towards that in some way. And then, on some days I'm going to get like PT or chiro. Some days I'm spending an hour or two in the gym, like strength training. So yeah, there's a lot of body work and gym work that goes into that too that I didn't even mention.
So with that, I'm coming back to you, Ashley, here in just a second, but talking about the routine and the grind and what all it takes, like realistically, and maybe you haven't thought about this much, maybe you don't want to think about it this much, but like how long, what's the lifespan of a professional runner? How long can you do this for?
I want to run forever until the day I die, but they're starting to see that women tend to get better in their 30s. So I mean, women are kind of killing it until even 40, like low 40s. So,
Okay.
I mean, I'll do it as long as my body lets me, basically.
Yeah. So with that, you still got
Hopefully another 10 years,
yeah,
for
another
sure.
decade or so.
Yeah,
Great.
hopefully another 2 Olympic cycles.
Yeah, we heard earlier.
Yeah.
So Nate touched on it a little bit earlier with Puma, but aside from Puma, what is like one of the coolest partnerships that you've gained in your professional running career?
Oh, this is so easy. Okay, so I got to, for the New York City Marathon, for one day, I was sponsored by Maybelline. Like, it's a makeup company for the men in the room. And I got to wear their, like, lipstick. The coolest part about it is if you're an Olympic fan or on social media at all, there's a woman, her name's Alumni. She was a rugby player. She kind of blew up. She went very viral to Dancing with the Stars. And at the New York City Marathon, she was also sponsored by, or she is sponsored by Maybelline, so she was at the finish line waiting for me so that we could do like a little like picture moment at the end. I was dying. It was like on death's bed. I could barely stand up, but I was trying to act so cool for Alumni.
Yeah. Are there any, so kind of like that example there, are there any other relationships, friendships, connections that you made kind of through the Olympics, or even, I guess, professionally that you've been able to kind of stay in contact with, like, in maybe things that you would have thought, I never would have seen this coming if it weren't for running?
A weird one is, I didn't even really notice this, but Montana started to notice that this person kept commenting on all my posts. And her name is Randy Zuckerberg. Okay. Mark Zuckerberg's sister is like a huge fan of mine. So her and I like DM on Instagram all the time.
Very
and I'm
cool.
like, this is insane. You're worth like $1 bajillion.
It's good.
So I'm sure that you've experienced injuries both large and small, but how have you overcome those when they have arisen?
So I am going to knock on wood. Since graduating from Northern, I haven't been sidelined with many injuries, but I think that's for 2 reasons. I fuel really diligently. Like when I spoke earlier about my day, I probably didn't emphasize on how much I'm eating throughout the day. I'm fueling like every 30 minutes, and that's probably not even staying true. Like I'm eating all the time. As a distance runner, you have to be so well fueled, but also I'm really good about going to see like my chiropractor or my PT when something is starting to bother me, because you can put out like a little spark before it becomes like a big fire into an injury. So I think in college I wasn't always as good about going to see like our PT or our
Athletic trainer.
Athletic trainer. I was like, what do they call them here? When something would hurt, I'd just kind of run through it, and then all of a sudden it would become an issue. But now I'm just much better about saying, like, I have these resources around me for a reason, so I'm going to go get help when I need it.
Who had the biggest impact on you here at Northern? It's a 2-part question. And did you feel the impact and support from the Aberdeen community as a whole?
I'm going to have to give it a 2-part to Kevin Bierke and Sasha Hoveen Gallagher. Obviously, like I said, I basically became attached at her hip and said, whatever you're doing, I'm doing. But also Kevin for just letting me I felt like he did me an honor by just letting me on the team. And then he didn't care that I was a walk-on. Like, he cared just about as much about me as he did his full ride athletes. So I felt like they both just, helped me along the way. And I felt so much community love from Aberdeen. I can tell you a million stories about how awesome this community is, but one that I think about is I used to serve at Ruby Tuesdays, which I loved. That was like my favorite job ever. Yeah. And I served this old man one day randomly. I came in the next day and my manager said, hey, you have some mail here. And I was like, mail? And he had sent out a clip-in of like the write-up in the newspaper that they did about me, and he said, if you run half as good as you serve, you're surely to take gold, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I served him, he realized who I was, and then he sent in mail to Ruby Tuesdays. It's like, you guys are all so nice. I can't tell you how many times I went to Caribou, and somebody would be like, oh, Dakotah, like, good job at your race last weekend. It was awesome here.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. I think just the support that the Aberdeen community gives, and it's for me as still a relatively new person here, it's really cool to hear the stories that, and we know this didn't just start recently. It's been going on for long before even you were here as an athlete. So I think that's just one of the really cool things that we have here is that support and relationship.
All right, let's do one final one from here. What would you say is the coolest opportunity you've had following the Olympics?
That's a good question. I feel like I have to throw it back to that Maybelline thing. Like, I never thought as a kid I would be sponsored by Maybelline. It's like a big brand. It's not just like any brand. It's like a big brand.
It is.
It was super, super awesome.
I thought you might say getting this invitation.
This was actually, shoot, I really did drop the ball on that. I did also get to say the Let's Play Hockey for the Wild on their home opener. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, those two things are way cooler than this one.
No, I mean, this is very cool too. Oh, I got to throw out a first pitch. I'm trying to think of all the cool things I did. Yeah, I got to throw out a first pitch at Yankee Stadium and at the Twin Stadium. Those were cool too.
Yeah. Really cool.
My Yankee I practiced really hard for the Yankee Stadium because I was not to be embarrassed there, and that one was really good, but my Twins was a little clay. I felt pretty cocky after doing it well in New York.
Yeah. I got one more question here for you, just kind of along those same lines. Like you talked early on here about different interviews and podcasts and different things like that. Maybe what's been, have you gotten to do like have you got to talk with anybody, interviewed with somebody that you're thinking, I would have never dreamed of this opportunity?
A really cool one is only Peloton runners will be impressed by this, but Bex Gentry, she's like a big Peloton instructor, like big time.
Okay.
I've got to do a podcast with her. Trying to think, Jason Matheson, he's just a Twin Cities guy, but it's like a daily show that I used to watch when I was younger. I got to do a couple interviews with him. And then sitting down with you.
You missed
top level.
You missed it. No, so, well, good. We'll kind of give you the chance here just to maybe give any last word or final thought here for the group.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thankful for the opportunity to come back to Northern. I'm incredibly honored that I get to call myself an alumna of here, and this was the building blocks of what became my dream, basically, and you just don't know like the impact that this entire community has had on me. I am, super familiar now with many professional runners, and I hear about their college experiences, and sure, they're Division I athletes who rode on private jets to go to their meets, and they got 20 pairs of Nike shoes every year, and they had all these luxuries. But then I hear about, maybe some of their more emotional experiences, and I just feel so sad for so many people because they did not have the amazing experience that I did here. I'm really grateful for Northern, for Kevin Bierke, for my teammates, and everybody here.
Very good, very good. Well, we're certainly appreciative of you. We're very proud of you and all that you've done and accomplished, not only in your time at Northern, but obviously beyond there. And so, job well done from Northern State and Aberdeen to you. So, again, thanks for being here tonight. So let's hear it for Dakotah here one time. So if tonight wasn't enough, she'll be here tomorrow as well. She's going to give you a quick little recap of her schedule over the next 24 hours or so. So tomorrow she's going to join us at Sideliners. That's noon at Buffalo Wild Wings. We'll have some of our student athletes. She'll be there as well. So you get like a short version of this tomorrow at noon. And then she's going to get a chance to visit with our track and field cross-country student athletes tomorrow afternoon. So that's kind of just for them. And then tomorrow evening before the basketball games, it's I Hate Winter weekend, we'll have her there. Ashley, help me out on some times here for the 5 p.m. to 6:30. She'll be there for autographs, photos, that kind of thing at the Barnett Center. And then we're going to do a little recognition of her just prior to the women's game, which is second tomorrow. So a lot of things here over the next couple of, not a couple of days, next one day. But again, she'll be here. We're excited about that. So again, appreciate you being here. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yep. Thanks everyone for coming tonight. Have a great evening.